goes. Watford Recycling Arts Project has been going for about 27 years. Um, Scrap stores in general have been going for about 30 years all over the world. They started as a phenomenon in response to people seeing usable materials about them. And in Watford, it was most specifically in response to a lot of paper being about, Watford being a printing town. So there were several printing bodies in the town that had paper available. And it started off in a garage. A few women from the women's centre got together, collected it up, and then that sort of became our very first resource. So the very first resource, and that was very popular. And then we were very lucky. We were given a building to use at the local dump. So people were coming to the tip to get rid of stuff. And it was very synergistic there because as they were getting rid of stuff, they would think, well, maybe this is stuff that we could usefully pass on. So in that way, our resources widened their scope. We started taking on more stuff, and then industry started to respond to us. They were seeing that people that they had waste that they would like to pass on, and so we widened our scope into fabric, um, cardboard tubes, foam, people's stashes, personal stashes that they had. And then they would bring them into us. So if they would say they were clearing a house after a relative had died, or perhaps somebody had got to the point where they just didn't want stuff anymore, that would start coming into us, which was great because people felt good about all the money they'd spent on stuff that it was actually going to get used. So that was good from our point of view, and from their point of view. So it's a mutual thing between the donor and the store and the membership. So we've got sort of like a three-way relationship, really. So we, Watford in particular, we benefit from the charitable end of let scheme. So we get our building through a building being at its end of its commercial life, and then there's a middle person who liaises with the landlord and then gets occupants in. So in that way, we keep our overheads right down because we aren't paying a commercial rent, and we're only paying a proportion of the rates for that building. Usually they're pretty ratty, I have to say. The buildings are usually flipping awful. We just have to make the best of a bad job. The buildings usually are leaky and a bit grim, but we give them more life. The building that we've just moved out of is a prime example of that. It was getting rattier and rattier, quite literally, actually, when we first went in there, we did literally have rats. There had been food stored in there, and I rather unfortunately was in there by myself one day, and I am really frightened of rats. Spiders, snakes, fine. Rats. I got a dead one caught in the trolley, the wheels of the trolley, and went shrieking out. And luckily, the guys over the road came in and removed it for me. They were the guys at the car wash came and removed it for me. Otherwise, I think I'd probably come to pieces on the spot. But that's that was one of the things we've had to deal with on the way. Obviously, the kind of building that you get kind of determines your business model, really, because if you get a building that you have to pay the full rates for, or you have to pay a substantial amount for, because it's a good building and it could get a commercial rent from someone else, you then have to generate more income. Well, for us, we pretty much exist just on our annual subscription, and we don't charge anybody anything else after that. So in that way, we maximise the amount of throughput that we get for our staff. And we're all volunteers. Everyone's a volunteer. There's no paid staff. So we keep our overheads right to a minimum, which means that we don't have to handle cash very much, which is great because everybody hates that. So the things that you have to think about when you're starting up a scrap store then is you
Jenny,
have
sorry,
to
Helen, could I just interrupt? Could you tell
yeah,
us
please do.
about who uses this? Like, what do people come to a scrap store for? Because there may be people who have no concept of what people are coming for. You're talking about the members. Can you tell us a little bit more about the members and who comes along on that?
Yes, indeed. Right. So we've got an educational remit. So some people might interpret that as working purely with children and schools, but we interpret it as anybody coming into the store is learning about using materials. So basically, anybody who people mostly hear about as by word of mouth. So somebody's already coming that they know, and they say, "Oh, this is an amazing place full of tut. Come and have a look round." So it's the idea, especially with us, because we've got very low overheads and it costs barely anything to come. People will come just out of curiosity. So they'll think, oh, blimey, what is this place? This place that you can pretty much get stuff free from. So they'll come and have a good old nose around. And we always say to people, don't pay for a membership up front. Just go and have a look at it and see if there's anything that you can use. And I think it's just the idea. For a lot of people, you see, it used to be that you had a shed in the garden where you could keep your own stash of tut. But a lot of people have very small homes now, so they don't really have anywhere that they can keep sort of inspiring materials. So we display ideas, so that'll be people that have met the stuff that people have made, be that pictures or the actual thing. And sorry, my sorry, my text has just come up. I've just lost you all. Yeah, so they're coming for ideas and they're coming to look at the stuff that's available. So it's cheap. The idea is that we're providing stuff that people can use at a very, very low cost. You don't have to go after pay hobbycraft prices to use our materials, and somewhere to get ideas from. And a lot of people, they come in at the beginning of the holidays and they'll get a couple of bags of stuff, and that'll keep the kids going for the whole holidays. So it's a great way of just sort of generating ideas and providing sort of the basic materials to get stuff going, right? Really, does that make any sense?
That's great. Would you like me in the background? I could share some of the examples of what people have made from Watford while Helen continues to talk about the.
There are two questions straight away. One is, what is the annual subscription? And the other one was, where are the local scrap stores? So if you could cover those things.
Yeah, no problem. Right. So so the subscriptions for us, we charge £10 admin for anybody that's joining, and that's to encourage people to renew promptly. And then annually, an individual and their immediate family will pay £15. So that's like £25 for the whole year. And they can come as often as they like for that, and take more or less what they like. Although, obviously if somebody's joining as a school, we would expect them to take more stuff away than an individual family. And then there's a small group rate as well. So schools pay, I think it's £100 at the moment, and plus the admin. Small groups pay £35 plus the admin, and families pay £15 plus the admin. And I think they were trying to get together a rate for the schools that have sort of joined forces and become sort of multiple schools. I think there's another fee for those. Oh, and what was the other question? Sorry.
Paul's asked.
So you're on mute, Jane. Oh yeah.
Where
was the other
where
question?
can I find a scrap shop is basically the other question.
Right. So if you go online, there's a very loose umbrella organisation called Reuseful, and Reuseful. Not all of the scrap stores belong to Reuseful, but most of them do, and they provide sort of a map with kind of like pins where the stores are. So if you look up Reuseful UK, you will find a map there with various with most of them on. Otherwise, I would say go to maybe your local authority site and see if they've linked to that.
I'm putting this into the chat. Reuseful, just literally that, all in one word.
Yeah.
.uk.
I think I'm not sure. I think it might be .co.uk. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
whatever.
yeah.
I think
If you put,
you'll find it.
No, it's .org.
Oh, is it .org? Right. Thanks.
Thank you.
And if you're in the Chesham and Amersham area, which I see Paul is, you've got the luxury, you can go to Watford for Watford Recycling, which Helen's part of, or you have Refresh Wickham, which is now open in Wickham Town Centre. So both of those are open, and if you drop us a line, we can tell you, or we can put in the chat the addresses of either of those.
And then you've got Milton Keynes, which is probably the next nearest one. There used to be one in Welwyn, but that's closed. There used to be one in Aylesbury, but that's defunct now, I think. And these are the reason they go in and out of being in existence is due to funding. So quite often a scrap store will start up with a specific remit. I mean, I think the one in Aylesbury was particularly tuned into a training scheme for adults with learning difficulties. But once the funding ran out for the adults, they pretty much stopped their operations. So they will tune into different funding pockets if they can. But it varies. It varies what's available at the time. So and sometimes place will go defunct, and then it'll open up again a couple of years later as it tunes into a different funding stream. But we've been very lucky, really, insofar as we've just kept going on the strength of our very low overheads, really. And because we're all a bunch of mad people who just want to be there for the fun of it.
Yeah,
I have to confess, I'm actually taking a break at the moment because it's not that much fun. We've just done the move, and I'm actually suffering from a mental overload. So I'm actually taking a break from it at the moment. But it is still it's reopening on the 29th of November in Talpits Lane in Watford.
And hopefully people who perhaps are saying, well, what would I do with the stuff? The gallery of what you've done will give people ideas that there is all sorts of uses. And I don't know if any of my colleagues from Refresh Wickham would like to say what sort of organisations do we think are useful places like schools, etc. I don't know if anybody would like to add anything more about thoughts about organisations that need scrap stores and perhaps don't realise they do yet.
Everybody's a member of every demographic comes to the scrap store. Every demographic. We've got elders groups, we've got crafts groups, we've got youth groups, we've got faith groups, we've got all you name it, they come.
And do you see like seasonal, do you think about obviously Easter and Christmas and things like that. Halloween might be a big. Do you find that there's, you know, a real seasonal flow to what people are looking for?
Yeah, the absolute irony of it is that we are doing this move at actually our busiest time of year. This is just such a killer because the busiest time of year for us is the start of the new school term. So we get all the teachers coming in to get stuff for all their makes during the autumn term, because you imagine that, you know, we've got all the different festivals coming up, and they're all geared up for that. And they all come along gung-ho and stagger out with cars and cars full of stuff. It's hilarious, actually, because we will say, which one of you is walking home? Because there's be about 3 of them trying to get all their stuff into the car, and it's rapidly becoming apparent that there'll be very little room to sit. So we think, you know, we say, we'll give you the bus fare home if you've got to, you know, if one of you's got to get home by public transport. And then we get the students from the colleges. A lot where we were in Northwood Hills, we used to get a lot of the fashion students coming, and we've had our stuff's gone down the catwalk at London Fashion Week on the strength of the fashion students coming, and because they have to do a sustainability module, so they come, and we have a laugh because we always they've got too much stuff, we just tie it to them, and then they have to go down the stairs on the tube and get into the tube somehow with all this stuff on them, a few stops up the line. So you can always identify anybody who's coming away from the scrap store because they're just staggering. But yeah, this is we put stuff to buy for the festivals that we know are coming up. So if we see anything sort of sparkly and spangly, we try and keep sort of a supply of that for Christmas, and just sort of gradually eke it out, and so that everybody gets a go, really.
Okay, can I ask one more question for Helen, and then I think we'll move to repair cafes, if that's okay. There's time to ask more questions of either speaker at the end. So Hilary asks, what has been the best return for your effort? Is it engaging with the schools or voluntary groups? And do you need a large online presence to get your members in?
It's really hit and miss. When we've I had some colleagues who did a huge program, and they were fortunate to get the funding for it from Three Rivers, and they did a group. They did group workshops with about 20 schools for Three Rivers, and did this enormous project. So I don't know if you've seen any of the images online, but it's sort of oceanic life. It was based on oceanic plastics, basically. So they were talking about the problem of plastics in the sea, and there's some pictures from that of a huge group show that they did. Because there were so many schools tuned into that, they got a huge response from that. All the school members were then coming to investigate us individually, whereas they'd just been members through the school before then. But other times that we've had a huge response is just when somebody, any of the scrap stores, get mentioned online by one of the TV programs. You know, like it could be one of the, you know, the school's art the children's art programs, or anyone that's sort of tuned into. Sorry, just made me laugh. I just saw the minion. It's one of our colleagues made that. He's a boffin now. Yeah, he made that as well. He made the dialect, and yeah. So it's really it's a bit like, you know, Delia mentioning cranberries in one of her recipes. You could imagine that phenomenon a few years back. If Delia mentioned a special ingredient, the shops were sold out the next day. And it's kind of like that. If somebody gets a mention on the radio or the TV, suddenly you're swamped. You've got no idea why. And then somebody on Reuse will say, oh, we had a 5-minute slot on the local news, and somebody was talking about scrap stores. So, you know.
Thank you, Helen. Terrific.
Pleasure.
I think we've got an idea.
Pleasure.
About what scrap stores are all about. Don't know about anybody else, but I didn't know. So thank you for that. We're going to cover repair cafes too. So I'd like to move across to that now. And then we'll have some minutes at the end when people can ask questions about any of those things. We have several people online now who are Repair Cafe experts, if I can call it that, people who have started them up or volunteered at them or just generally know a lot about them. So and presumably some people also who don't know much about it. So are you ready, Jenny?
Yes, I am.
Okie doke. I will share your slides. Hopefully that is.
Yep. Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you, Rosie, and thank you, Jane, very much. I'm Jennifer Mason. I'm in Godalming in Surrey, and I'm in Rotary, and I'm in Godalming Rotary. A few of us Rotarians in Godalming have been working together because Rotary gave us a new focus a couple of years ago now, about 18 months ago, to support the environment. So it was a new responsibility for Rotarians, and some of us got together, a few of us in Godalming got together, and for a year we were reaching out to people, encouraging them to do something, and we were trying to do something in Godalming, but we was reaching out to other clubs as well. This time last year, one of our new members encouraged us to go and look at a repair cafe in Hazelmere in Surrey, and then we also contacted and got in touch with a repair cafe in Farnham, which none of them were run by Rotarians, but they both were extremely helpful to us and helped us get sorted out what we needed to do and all the different things that the project would involve. We'd been looking for an environmental project that would encourage local community to get involved with us as partners, and particularly for the younger people within our community. We wanted to involve younger people, and we wanted it to be an ongoing project without too many Rotarians, because some of them just weren't interested. We've only got so many active ones in our clubs. So we found that the Repair Cafe is absolutely brilliant for this. It's been amazing, really. And I like what Helen said, we have lots of fun doing it. We enjoy doing it. It took us 6 months to really get it started so that we could launch it or start it up. And then we launched it after we'd started it up as a trial. But the Repair Cafe is absolutely brilliant, perfect for this, for involving the community, saving on the environment because things aren't getting thrown away. And our local council have given us free premises, which obviously, so we've got no overheads, more or less. We just provide free tea, coffee and cake. Cake is always a very good thing to have at these social events. So we eat cake, have fun, fix things and save on the environment, and we help people to save money as well. This is what our one room looks like. We've branched out into 2 different rooms now at the moment, and we're trying to get a bigger room off the council. But this is what our Repair Cafe looks like. You've got people who are standing up. They obviously bought things into the cafe, and then you've got people sat repairing things. You've got over to the right, you've got a couple of young guys who are repairing electronic equipment like remote controls and things like that. And there's a little queue there because they do get, it's 2 of them. They didn't know each other before, but they know each other now and they work together and they repair things. There's 2 sewing machinists there, and they bring their sewing machines in and they mend and repair things for people. And we've got probably 6 ladies who come in and repair things, who are willing to. And but we have 2 at a time. At the back, there's somebody else sat there. There's two guys sat there, and they're probably on computers, and they've just, at the moment, they haven't got anybody there. So this is what it looks like in the foreground. Here, nearest to the camera, you can see there's the cake, and there's a donation bucket on the table. So and the next slide, please, Jane, thank you. So repair CAFs bring satisfaction. The people who are repairing things love doing it. They just love using their skills for the benefit of other people. A lot of them are environmentally minded when they've joined us, but other people will come and get something fixed and say, oh, I could help with this, or I could help with that, or I've got an uncle, or my dad might come, and they enlist other people that way. So we've got over 26 of them now volunteering, not all turning up the same month. We only meet once a month, but we've got a WhatsApp group. We put it out on there, who can come this month, and then we get the feedback, who can come, and then we announce what is going to be repairable, what people can bring, because sometimes it's bicycles and you don't want to get there and then the guy who repairs the bicycles isn't there. So it brings people together, it's brought strangers together. We have a friendly environment, and it's obviously given Rotary a really good shout out in the local area. It shows that we're people of action and we want to help, and it avoids landfill and throwing things away. And this is why the council have given us the free premises, because they've realised that it will prevent landfill, but also and save them money. But also, it's really good for the community, especially in these difficult times at the moment, where people can't afford to go out and buy a new kettle. If the kettle suddenly fuses, they can bring it there, and I've seen many people walk back out with electric fans in the summer that had blown up, and they've gone back out with electric fans working, lights, lamps, just everyday household equipment is being repaired. And they have, and like at the bottom it says, and we have fun too. The next slide, Jane. This is about where they are globally. Repair CAFs are global. Right across the globe, there's repair CAFs. I think there's more in the UK and in Europe. There's a lot in Europe. And I think that figure 2508 is what's in Europe and the UK at the moment. So we don't have to, we're trying to encourage other Rotarians to do this, because we know a lot of Rotarians go and volunteer and help, but our mission was to try and get this right across our district and across Rotary, so other people would start this up, because it can be handed back to the community once you've got it going if you wanted it to, but most of the ones around are run by individual people and just community volunteers, and that's what's happening with ours. Most of the people, everybody there more or less, except 4 of us, are non-Rotarians, so it doesn't have to be through the Rotary. The next one, Jen. Oh yeah, so what do you need to start one up? If you wanted to start a repair CAF in your local district, you need somebody who's enthusiastic and wants to lead this. So you need at least 1 or 2 people. You need to find a suitable space, and I would recommend you going to your local council, or recently I live in a village, and I've been talking to someone at one of our local churches, and they were already thinking of starting something up where they could help people with computers. And I think we're going to be able to partner them, and they would like us to use their church. So that's it, be really good for me to be able to do that in our local village. It would be brilliant if Rotary can partner it's a Baptist church. And so we're looking forward to working with them and looking into that further. And I'm pretty sure if I put a Facebook post out on my local village Facebook page, I would get people come and say, yes, I can help once a month with that. People are willing to do this. We've been amazed at the response of people wanting to help us and wanting to get involved and enjoying doing it. We've got a range of skills. When we first all met, and there was a group of us there was all different people who could do different things, and it was astonishing. It was as though you'd interviewed each person and say, right, we want a carpenter, we want an electrician, we want someone who can repair bikes, we want somebody who's good at computers, and they all turned up, all these people. It was amazing. You don't have to use much money to do it. If you've got accommodation, that is the main things, because the people aren't charging for their time, and all we're doing is providing coffee, and someone volunteers to make a cake or bring a cake. So you don't need a lot of money to get it going. And you just they need to know it's a regular commitment, and that we're going to open at the same time, but it's once a month. And what we've done is to look at the other local towns around us who've got, and they were always the first month or the second month, and we've gone for the fourth Saturday in the month, and so there's we're all spaced out, so someone living in my village could go any direction within 2 weeks and get something repaired locally. So that's what we've done. And the next one, Jane. Oh, these are just useful links, really. This is our link for our repair cafe in Godalming. And we've got a temporary web page on the council, because we haven't yet had a volunteer what would take a website on and set a website up for us, or a Facebook page, but that's something we'd like to do. We've got a WhatsApp group for the repairers, and we've got a separate WhatsApp group for the sewers and the greeters, because there's so many, there's quite a lot of ladies who are sewing, and some of them, like myself, will sew or our greet and meet and greet. So those are just useful links there. So that's, I think I've said all I'm going to say without questions afterwards. There wasn't one of how many on there. I might have sent you the wrong one, Jane, because I've got another one with how many items were bought in.
Okay, can you just remember roughly off the top of your head? Because I remember there being a list when Ian showed us.
Yeah.
It was all very carefully recorded, how many things were repaired, how many things were unrepairable, and that kind of thing.
If you give me a couple of minutes, if you give me a minute, I'll go and look on he updated me and sent me another one. I've sent you the wrong one. But
with your permission, I will put quite a number of these links up on our website. Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine.
The ones that will be relevant to people. Okay.
Okay.
So
okay. Shall I answer questions and then go and get the details? I think we've taken in over 100. We've taken in over 100 goods to be repaired, and out of that, I think it's about 75 that have been repaired, and there's so many that are still being. Some people take things home and repair them, so there's some, and there's a percentage. I think there was 19 out of that which were unrepairable. So, and I've got the breakdown in front of me, and out of 3 bicycles that have come in, there's been 3 repaired. IT phones, 2 have been bought in, and 2 have been repaired.
Brilliant.
Electrical items, 47 have been bought in, and 44 fixed. Mechanicals, 28 have been bought in and 26 fixed. Clothing repairs, 17 and 16 have been fixed. Furniture,
we get the general idea that you're able to fix most things.
Most things, yes.
Terrific.
Jewelry 100%, furniture 100%, and other things 100%.
That's terrific.
It is. I mean,
just think of all those things that haven't gone into landfill.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
somebody I get talking to people, as you can imagine I do, and the one lady sat and had a coffee with me and said that she'd got this really favorite lamp that she'd sit and sew under and use for reading, and it had broken down. Her husband said, "Oh, throw it away, you've had it years, we'll go and get another one." And she brought it to the repair cafe, and of course she went out with it, and she donated a load of mother's knitting wool to us for my Sewing for Good group. So you know, it's win all round, but yeah, it's really rewarding thing.
I've got a question for you. I've got a question. Do the fixers involve the item owners in the repair, or do they just press on and do it for them?
We try and involve them in it. We do try and involve them in it, but like with this lamp, the lady came and had a coffee, so she didn't get involved in the electrical, but we try and involve them in it, especially with the sewing and things like that, what we think they could do themselves if they knew how to do it. And someone bought a mohair jumper and I showed her how to darn it at the back. So if the moths did come back and have another nibble, she would be able to repair it herself. I don't think she even thought about moths, but I did. But yeah, there's, you know, we try and educate them how to repair it themselves. And but obviously some of the things, you know, if they're really technical, we don't. But we do try and, yeah, we do try and involve them.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I would like to ask anybody on this call who has experience with repair cafes, either founding one or volunteering at one, or any other knowledge that you have. If you have something specific that you'd like to add to anything that Jennifer said.
Hi, yeah, Matt. I help organise Cheshire Repair Cafe. I would add to the list that was up on what you need. Insurance is a bit of an interesting one. Yeah, you do have to make sure you got that, and there's some fairly specific insurance. There's a company that does kind of specific for like men in sheds ones. So yeah, but otherwise I thought that's a really good introduction. There's also a question about like specific organizations to like help get repairers. I know Amersham, for example, reached out to like the WI to get sewers as a good source, and like the Men in Sheds organization as well. We found.
Yeah, we did join. You see, it's Ian who sorted all these things out, and he we've joined a federation of repair caf, and we got different things from that they helped us with, and we also the thing that cost us money to start up was the insurance. We were really hoping that our Rotary insurance would cover us, but they didn't. Because there was no other Rotary club doing this. It was, you know, inventing the wheel really for us, and they weren't very happy about what we was going to be doing. So we had to get that insurance, where I think you've probably mentioned. But we got a grant from our district. We got, there's money available, and it's available for anyone really. We're at Rotary, have got money to give out for environmental.
There's a lot of people here who aren't Rotarians, Jenny.
No, well, it's available. If they went through a Rotary club and asked for if we would give them a grant, there is money available. Okay. That's what I was saying, you know, across the board, not just for Rotarians, there's money available.
So thank you for that, Matt, because that's definitely something which has come up as being quite a problem, and it's obviously really important.
Yeah, we paid about £250, I think it was, for our insurance, but we got a grant of about £500 off our district to start us up. So yeah, mustn't forget that. It does cost that. Paul
Tanner, I know that you have volunteered in at least one repair shop as a repairer. What's it like from the point of view of the repairer?
Well, I think what Jen said is right, in that we like doing it, and we like meeting the other people that are involved with it. So, you know, I put a couple of comments. First of all, I wanted to say I thought their figures from the Godalming one were really good. I don't think we are quite at that level. Matt might comment on that, but we're not. We haven't quite got that kind of ratio. But sometimes, you know, you've got things which could be fixed if you had the parts, and so we try this technique of sending them away to go and get the part. And I think a lot of the time they don't, because they were rather hoping that we would have it. Actually, there's a little, I think certainly at Chesham anyway, there's a little box of bits and pieces that might increase our success of fixing things, but a lot of times the part required is specific to the broken item.
So do you ever send somebody off? Do you as a repairer ever take the thing off and go away and fix it later? Is that
I have done. I don't think it's a very good idea, because you can't be sure that the person who it belongs to is going to come back at a time, because we don't go to every session.
Yeah, of course.
There isn't anywhere to store things, so I think on the whole it's better to not to take it home. Although I certainly have thought about it on a number of occasions because of this issue of tools. I mean, we bring tools, but we only bring the tools that we're pretty sure we might need.
Of course.
The rest of everything in our workshops we don't bring. And in my case, you know, I would need a truck to bring the stuff in my workshop, whereas I prefer to come to the repair cafe on my bike.
So you have to guess what you're going to need.
Yeah.
Penelope, you have a question. You're muted.
Yes, I was just going to add on that point about taking things home. So I've been involved with the Wickham Repair Cafe, and we assumed when we set up that we mustn't allow anyone to take anything home because it would get lost. But we actually find it's commonly done, particularly by the sewers, but also by that we have somebody who doesn't like to be known as the guy that glues things, but he is the guy that glues things. And he often prefers to take it home because he can take off the old glue that people have put on when you do that at home and then let it dry and blah, blah, blah. And what we did is we've devised a form, but we need to revise it to make it clearer so that there's a disclaimer at the end. If somebody's taking it home, the person whose item it is signs to say, this is beyond the repair cafe now. I'm friends with this repairer. It's like a neighbour helping me out. So if in the end I don't get it back, well, sometimes you take a risk on something and your friend, you know. So whether that in fact would stand up in a court of law if somebody sued us because they'd lost their whatever, I've no idea. But we did that simply because it was the way it was working.
I do definitely see if you're gluing things, you know, you might want to clamp it overnight or something like that to get the glue to set. So yeah, okay. So interesting, two different answers to that question, all of which goes to show that repair cafes are what the people who run them make of them. Mark, do you have anything to add? I know you are very knowledgeable about repair cafes.
Well, not just, sorry, can you hear me okay? Yeah, not just repair cafes. I mean, there are other groups, of course. There's the Restart Project, which is primarily in London, but they operate, I think, out all over the UK and internationally as well. But they're focused very much on electricals and electronics. So there are other groups. I think it really, really depends on a number of things. So I know of some repair groups, Market Harborough, where they've actually got their own porter cabin now. And what that does is it allows them to actually take stuff in because they can store it in the porter cabin. And because that porter cabin is always where the repairs take place, you haven't got this issue of, which we have with some repair cafes, which is they move location depending on what's available. I mean, I know in Oxford, that repair cafe moves between two different locations. So that can be problematic. Reading does the same. It moves between two locations. So I think it depends on what facilities you've got. And then, as you said, the approach that individuals want to take, but you do need to make sure you've got a disclaimer. I mean, the one thing that is beginning to emerge, I mean, I think all the repair cafes and the restart projects as community things are great, but it's a start, I would describe it as. You know, there is a long way to go, and there's a lot more we can do. So you've got places like Bath Share and Repair. I don't know how many people are aware of that. They've actually got hold of an entire shop in the city centre, and they run a library of things in there. And they also run a repair cafe in there, but they also run training courses for people to teach them how to repair and more about repair. They run a drop-off service where if you want to get something repaired and it's not going to be something that can be done at a repair cafe, it's going to take several days to do or whatever, they do that. They can clearly store tools and spares and all these other things that you need in the shop. There's 2 of those also just opened up in London. They're called Fixing Factories. I'll put the links to some of these in a minute. Fixing Factories is a restart project initiative, but with lots of other charities and with some lottery funding. And what they're trying to do is the same as the Share and Repair in Bath. There's also one in Newport in Wales, which is to actually almost like move these repair capabilities back onto the high street, because then you get all the benefits of the repair cafe restart party type approach, but you then actually, it becomes very, very visible to the rest of the community. It actually provides another reason for people to go back to high streets. And then obviously from a repair point of view, it gives you the option to store spares. If the thing's broken and it can't be repaired, you can scavenge it for parts and keep those spare parts, which, by the way, you'll see in lots of other cultures around the world where repair is much more prevalent than ours. If they can't repair it, they'll just strip out of it anything that's useful because they can use that for a cheap repair in the future. So it opens up all of those opportunities. So I think this is a good start, but there's a long way to go, is my view. And there's a lot more that we can do, but actually getting repair groups or repair cafes up in every town centre is the starting point for it. But there's huge amounts more that we can do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop you some links to a number of things. One, I'll drop you the link to the Restart project, just so that you're aware of what they do. As I said, they're focused very much on electricals, electronics, but they work with repair cafes and they work with other repair groups so that they can host events that cover all. I mean, in Hackney, they repair just about everything and anything, and they actually bring large numbers of people together in Hackney with Hackney Fixers. They also run something called a fixometer, because one of the things that's really, really important in repair is that we actually have a record of the data in terms of what has been repaired, how much has been repaired, not just so that you can show how well we've done in each repair group, but if you can aggregate this data, it allows you to make a much more powerful case to governments and authorities around the value of repair. And one of the other things that the Restart project does, which makes it different to Repair Cafe International, is they actually also advocate for the rights to repair. So they're actually working at government level. They've been expert witnesses at House of Commons select committees. They've done the same with the European Union. They're trying to nudge the law so that we've actually got better rights to repair. We're lagging a little bit here in the UK compared to Europe, but you know, that we do at least have a small change in the law around repairability that's been introduced in the last couple of years. Unfortunately, only applies to TVs and white goods, but it's a start. So that they need this data in order to help make their case. So I would, if you are collecting data, if you haven't got a tool or you haven't got anywhere to aggregate it with others, have a look at the Restart project and see what they're doing. There's also, and I know I've mentioned this to Matt and the folks in Chesham, there's also a group that are known as the Community Repair Network. And this is collectives of repair cafes, Restart project, other interested groups that come together and actually share knowledge and information like you're doing tonight. But they do it on a sort of UK-wide basis, and they're looking at, you know, they're looking at trying to create not only knowledge share between the groups and share information about things like insurance and forms and all those other things, but they're also looking at areas where they might be able to campaign together to improve their performance. And then if you want general information, I'll actually pop you the link to my own website, because I've actually been photographing repair as a culture, as a community activity, commercial activities all over the place. And if you want to see the pinnacle of what can be achieved, you've got to go to Finland. There they've actually industrialized it. There they've actually got, in Helsinki, they've got 8 reuse centers, and those reuse centers literally handle everything. I mean, they're a bit more on an industrial scale, but literally, you know, in this country, if your washing machine's broken and is beyond economic repair, you usually ring the council up and they take it away, or you find somebody who's got a big enough car to take it down the tip and dump it. You don't do that in Helsinki. You ring up the council, or so you ring up this firm called Kierrätyskeskus, which means reuse center. They'll come and pick it up and they'll try and repair it. And the chances are they will repair it, and then they sell it. And any money they make from that goes back into improving the environmental services in the city. It's literally industrial scale.
I'm going to have to stop you there, but please do send through.
I'll bang you a load of links
to all of these things, and I will share them. I'll put them up on, you know, on my newsletter and the website and all the rest of it. I'll share them with people.
I will do that. Cheers.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
I've got way more information, but I know it's too much for tonight.
There's a question here about the Dutch repair cafe system. Where do other cafes record their items? Do you use the Dutch repair cafe system, or do you have your own spreadsheet? Any quick answers to that question?
Well, a lot of people are using now the Restart Project's Fixometer.
Okay. Obviously, it's going to make sense if there's some central system, some similar system that everybody uses, because then it makes it
unfortunately it's not that simple. There's more than one.
Okay.
You know how things are. Everybody likes to reinvent their own triangular wheel.
Okay, so I have 2 more things that I would very much like to do. One is just a bit of fun. I'm going to show you how they do it in India. So we have a lady called Nagioti who often attends these meetings, and I asked her to show me some photographs from near her. So here we have a guy who looks as if he would be able to do anything mechanical. And here we have another one. And this guy will repair your shoes for you. And she says that this is how it's done in India. It's not a question of having a repair cafe, it's a question of having a repair shop, and they're absolutely all over the place. So there are different ways of doing it in different parts of the world, was the only point I wanted to make there. Nagioti doesn't seem to be here this evening, unfortunately, but she very often is. So any other very, very quick last questions or comments before I do the final poll before we go? I think this has been really interesting, and obviously there's just a huge amount more information that all these people here could have shared, but hopefully it's got a bit of a feeling going that there's a lot we could do, and these things are successful, they're useful from every point of view. They're useful for people who want materials, who want repairs, and people who have materials they want to give away because they haven't got house room for them, and people who need things repaired. So it seems to me it's a win-win-win. So are you happy for me to share the exit poll, if I could call it?